Bubba Shout the Podcast, and that's right, a show about country at its time.
Welcome to Bubba Shout the Podcast. First, the facts. Seminole Wind is a song by country music artist John Anderson. It was released in August of 1992. It was the fourth single, but also the title track of the album of the same name. It peaked at number 2 in the United States and number 1 in Canada. It was initially a B-side on the second single release, Straight Tequila Night, a song we should do on this. Seminole Wind has been covered by Donna the Buffalo as well as James Taylor. That was in 98 and 2008, respectively. The song's a rad song. What's up, fellas? How are we doing? I had not listened to this in a long time, and it is much more acceptable than I expected.
Yep. That's a great point. This song's kind of just one of those that's just always around in my life. It's just on a lot, but it's so much that I don't really listen to as much. And I was like, okay, really pay attention to this chord because I bet you it's about to get pretty raving. And and a couple things though. Number one, the fact there's no way in my mind I would have thought that this wouldn't have gone number one. And number two, when you said we were doing Seminole Wind, I was like, wait, that song didn't come out in like 83, 84 or something like that. This seems like a very 80s song.
Well, this was his comeback album. He had been, so John Anderson's career is an interesting one. So he is from Apopka, Florida. And his first musical influences were rock and roll people. But then when he discovered George Jones and Merle Haggard, he was like, that's it. And he moved to Nashville in 71, unannounced, rocking up at his sister's house, and started doing odd jobs. And let me get a picture as quickly as I can. I wasn't planning on doing one until I thought of this just now, of John Anderson. I want to just show everybody watching on YouTube and you guys, just think about obviously a younger version, but the same, like I've seen pictures of him. He's had the same hairstyle, same look.
Yeah,
his whole life.
He looks like a hitting lunch lady.
He does look like a lunch lady. I don't know if she hits. Imagine that rocking up at your house. Yes, unannounced. Oh,
you want some fatback beans, boys?
Yeah. So anyway, he arrives in Nashville in the 70s. And eventually he works his way into the business. It takes him about 6 years. In 77 with I've Got a Feeling Somebody's Been Stealing, and breaks into the top 40 with The Girl at the End of the Bar. His backwoods accent and deep voice landed him at the forefront of what they'd called at the time the new traditionalist movement with people like Ricky Skaggs and George Strait. So in the late 70s and 80s, he was considered – a throwback as a new guy. We've lost Corey. What happened?
I don't know what it was. Raven. I'm sorry.
It's all good. I assume you could hear me, so you're keeping up with what we were talking about.
No, my internet completely fucked up. So.
Oh, my bad. I was saying that when this guy broke through in the late 70s, early 80s, he was considered a new traditionalist, or part of what they were calling the new traditionalist movement, along with Ricky Skaggs and George Strait. So as soon as he comes out the gate as a new guy, he's considered a throwback in the 80s. So for the 80s, he's considered a traditionalist. He has a good career in the 80s, fades away for a few years, has some albums not do too well, and then makes a comeback in 92. All that is a long way of both explaining his background. But to your point, Corey, he was an 80s guy.
Yeah.
Like it sounded like the 80s because he was an 80s guy.
Yeah, it's good shit. That wasn't a knock. I didn't mean to say like, oh, this sounds like a shit 80. I fucking love this song, but yeah.
Yeah.
I never knew any of that about John Anderson, or if I did, I had forgotten it. I just always assumed this. I hear what you're saying about the way it sounds, but I just felt like I knew that in my head, this is definitely a 90s country song, just because that's when I was listening to all the rest of these songs and it was always around. But some of them we've talked about have ended up being from the 80s, and I didn't know that. So I wouldn't have been surprised, but I didn't know that this was a comeback album. I didn't know none of that. It kind of makes sense a little bit retroactively for me personally, because like I can always remember my dad being sort of cool with John Anderson a bit. And I always thought it was just because of his barbecue sauce, like John Anderson had a barbecue sauce.
Oh, yeah.
For my dad. And I was like, I thought my dad was like, hell, he can't be too bad. You tried this shit.
That's how you get my dad for sure.
But it makes, it makes some more sense if he had been kind of like, if he, originally was around in like the 70s and 80s and whatnot. My dad probably would have just naturally respected him more or whatever.
That's probably why a lot of old folks still love George Strait in the 90s, because they just fucked with him from, the 80s, I guess.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about his background is I think a lot of people don't know. A lot of people know who John Anderson is, but don't really know anything about him because he was before our time. Even as a 90s guy, he was on his way out, and he didn't stick around in the 2000s the way that George Strait did. So he's just sort of one of those guys. He's like an outlaw, post-outlaw, kind of a strange, I don't know, place and time for him to be there. He's one of those I would call a legit artist, not just a pretty face. I mean, you guys saw the picture.
Yeah.
Yep, that was pure sex back then, buddy.
Absolutely.
On this album, Seminole Wind is also the name of the album. He has songs written by Kent Robbins, Max Barnes, Bobby Braddock, Vince Melamed, who wrote Walk Away Joe, which I love. He has co-writers on every song he wrote except for one, and that one is Seminole Wind.
There you go, Tushar. It's one.
Yeah,
I'm saying
you're
always pointing out that they don't write them, which is often the case. Well, this is, I think, the first time maybe we've covered a song that was entirely written by the guy singing it.
Yeah,
it is. It is.
That's awesome. I love that.
Pretty positive. Also, while we're on that note, I think that we've just come off of 4 weeks straight. I would like to propose another month-long specialty episodes that are just the best B-sides, because this is a hell of a B-side to a single. You know what I mean? That'd be interesting to look into.
Yeah, and I don't know how it works, in terms of the business back then. Were they planning on releasing it as a single, but just wanted it out there? Was that a test? We'll make it a B-side. If people kind of like it, then we'll put it out as a single. And for folks who don't know, back then, putting it out as a single was a big deal because it was hard to get radio play if you didn't officially release something as a single and essentially payola its way onto the radio if you weren't already an established star. For a guy like this, he's a legacy artist at the time, but he's faded into obscurity. I'm sure people were at least a little shocked. Now, the song that relaunched him was Straight Tequila Night, which we should do at some point. But that's a good plan, Corey. The problem with that plan is I'm not going to research songs beforehand to find that out. But I like finding out the week of that they were B-sides. I really do enjoy that.
I'll do some digging for you, buddy.
I used to, back in the era of CDs, because, when they said put something out as a single, they would literally put out a physical copy of a single, like that you could buy as a CD. And they would have like B-sides on them. And I used to do that on account of poor. Singles were like $2.99 or something like that. They were much less expensive. And I would do that. And in my mind, all the B-sides and all the singles I ever bought were always, some of them hit, but they were always like, they were B-side. They were like obscure. They were things you didn't hear like anywhere else or whatever. It was,
Well, I hear artists all the time. Sometimes they'll talk about like a song that was like a surprise hit for them, and I've often heard them say like, "Yeah, we put it out as a B-side." Like in their mind, it was just like, "Yeah, we got to put something on there."
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because this album, as his comeback album, and this song. He had written this song years before, and either by his own choice, I couldn't find enough information, or the studios, they wouldn't let him use it. They didn't think it would be a hit. And I don't know if he just was not important enough for anybody to argue with at some point, or if it was his decision. He didn't think it'd be a hit. And then he was like, fuck it. I'm fading away anyway. Let me throw it out there. Now, again, I don't want to make it sound like it saved his career. Straight Tequila Night is absolutely what did that. But that was interesting to me because our people being white trash, white Southerners, have an obsession with Native Americana and the whole lore surrounding them. It's often what I like to call, is benign racism a thing, Indian Outlaw? Probably no racism is benign.
I know what you're talking about, though. They don't realize they're being. You're right. They're not it's not ill will. They're being ignorantly racist instead of just like these people don't hit.
My Aunt Donna had about 57 Native American figurines in her trailer, and she told me that she wanted to be a squaw. Now, that is racist to say that, but she did not have racist feelings about Indians, other than
Right.
perhaps sort of the gays. What am I trying to say? Like the men do it to women. What's that word we use? Exotic. It might be exotifying them a little bit, but other than that, she had good intentions.
I mean, when I first listened to this song, I listened to it with my mom on the way back I picked her up from the library because there's a tornado warning here, and I just listened to it right before this thing started. Really cute. And I was like, "What is this song about, Mom?" And she's like, "I don't know, something about the wind." It was really cute. And then
it was a really good wind. It was a Seminole wind. Yeah.
That's a great connect in my mind to what we were talking about with your dad last week. It's like your dad's saying this stuff, and your mom's like, you're like, what did he say, Mom? You're like, oh, I don't know, something about the neighbors.
I think like when I read the lyrics, I was like, are you guys fucking with me because I'm the Indian outlaw? Like, it didn't make it. I was like, why? Any white person singing songs about a group of people that they were slaughtered, and seems to be in love, but I still don't really know what the song's about because I'm kind of an idiot.
Well, let's get into it. What is it about?
Because I don't know what the hell's going on in this song.
Right. Well, he establishes a reality, a modern reality, but with almost no commentary on it other than general sadness. So let's get into that, and let's talk about the Seminole people and all that. Now, just so you know, and for people listening, I would say most of our listeners know this. Not only is there an obsession with like Indian folklore and Indian figurines and Indian artifacts in the American South, there's also an obsession with the notion that you are, in fact, Native.
Of course.
Corey's dad, his mama used to get phone calls every weekend from, who was it? Soggy Sanook.
Soggy Sanook. Yeah. Soggy Sanook over there at the, he was on the Cherokee reservation. Yeah. And Soggy Sanook would call her allegedly drunk as fuck. And they would talk because, when I was a kid, I was always told, like, your grandmama's got just as much Cherokee blood in her as most people over at that reservation. I'm just like, I don't. No, that's not true, but whatever. That's
most people at that reservation.
Yeah,
like he was mad.
What's the joke, Trey?
The famous street joke about it is, what do you call 16 white people in a room together? A full-blooded Cherokee. Because everybody's at least 1/16.
1/16, yeah,
in the South. But Drew, were you looking at fetishize?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is definitely what the white people were talking about do with Native Americans, and it's like. And also calling this particular brand benign definitely don't track, considering, what we did to the
right.
But these people didn't. But I know that. But I think it's like if we hadn't, if our ancestors hadn't genocided them, and they were still around to be more active in all of this, I don't know if there would still exist this same level of fascination that people have with them.
Yeah, I think casual racism was maybe a better phrase that I was looking for, where it's less overt.
It's the only type of racism, though, where like they are, though, saying that they are a member of this race. You know what I'm saying? Like, they wouldn't do that with any other. Like, whenever some papaw makes a Chinese joke, they don't go, "No, I'm 1/16 Chinese. Don't worry about it."
But I'm not talking about that specifically. I was talking about the song at that point when I was looking for the right word. Tujar, were you going to say anything before I read these lyrics?
It is just strange. It almost makes me think of like a white blonde girl at a BLM protest march. Something about it of like, I'm overcompensating, and this is my white guilt kind of coming out. So I'm going to kind of pay homage. I
don't think John Anderson had a single drop of guilt.
I've never thought about it like that. The way I've always thought about it is it's just a way for white people to feed into their need to be a victim. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh, I'm just gonna claim to be a part of this group, and then I can say whatever I want. And they always throw it out there whenever it only ever comes up whenever
Wait,
there's
I'm
a
sorry.
ball
Just
team.
so I'm clear, are we talking about people claiming to be Indian or this song?
No, people
think
claim
you
to be
two are-
Indian. This,
I think
yeah.
Too Short was talking about the song, but maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, all right, my
Are you
bad.
thinking
Might be
of the
one and the
song?
same. Is John Anderson part
Oh,
something?
I don't know if he claims that or not. It wouldn't surprise me if he did, but I do think that we've got to be clear about what we're talking about here, because there's a certain thing in Southern culture in terms of how we treat, Cherokee culture specifically, but then more broadly Native American culture. And then there's this song, which is a part of that. But I guess I'm just pointing out that I think some things are true of the culture that are not true of the song.
Sure.
I think there's a bunch of different reasons. I like the more hippie types. They also fucking love Indians just because feathers
Dream
and
catchers.
spirituality and dream catchers and
Weed.
animals and weed and shit.
Peyote, yeah.
Yeah, fucking them rocks and pretty rocks they got. All that stuff hits for that type of white person.
That hits for everybody though. Like who don't that hit for? People hating feathers.
Rocks are
I mean,
fine.
right.
I could
I'm
take
just
or
not.
leave them.
I ain't hanging it all up in my bedroom and shit. I ain't got no problem with it. I'm not anti dream catcher, but I'm saying but then the more traditional redneck types, it's not all that. I don't think that makes them obsessed with Native Americans. It's just whatever, some combination of all the other things we said
Well,
or
dude, with
something.
my dad, I know it was the living off the land and hunting for your food and not having, paperwork and taxes and banks and you know what I
Right.
mean? It was like a sort of a fetishization of that part of their lifestyle.
They were also in
kind
all
of
the
free
movies.
warrior.
Right,
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's where
free
cowboy
warriors.
and Indian movies is
Yeah.
what the obsession starts with.
I mean, the movies that my dad watched as a kid were almost exclusively westerns. Like they made so many of those, and like there was Native Americans,
And
It is. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, a lot of those westerns, even the gnarliest of the tribes, however they made them look, they would always add some character who was like, there's some honor to these savages,
right? That are played by Mexicans.
right?
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the last song was purely cowboy, and this is purely Indian, and it's this one seems more racist. Although it's cowboys that kills Indians, so that should have been more.
Phil from
Something.
Chico, I can't remember his last name. He goes by Phil from Chico on stage. Used to have a joke when the Redskins, the Redskins, when that
Commanders
was popping off, he was like, "You guys are making them change the only names related to the natives. Why don't you change the names Cowboys, Vikings, Patriots? I mean, every other fucking team is who murdered these people." All right,
that's
let's
funny.
get into the lyrics because we haven't gone this far without starting in a while. It's a good episode already. Here we go. Ever since the days of old, men would search for wealth untold. They dig for silver and for gold and leave the empty holes. And way down south in the Everglades, where the black water rolls and the sawgrass waves, the eagles fly and the otters play in the land of the Seminole. So blow, blow, Seminole wind. Blow like you're never gonna blow again. I'm calling to you like a long lost friend, but I know who you are. And blow, blow from the Okeechobee all the way up to Manakopee. Blow across the home of the Seminole, the alligator and the gar.
It
A
reads
lot of
like
nature.
it's like a children's book.
Yeah, there's a lot of naturalistic references. There's a lot of chants going on too. It's very rhythmic.
I'm going to throw myself under the bus here. It sounds like how I write jokes from time to time, wherein I don't really know what's happening, but them words sure do sound good when you put them all together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's to a certain extent. I know what you mean, but also like your jokes, there's definitely a theme here, and it's doing a good job of allowing the listener to fill in some holes. But it's pretty clear from now. You might have to listen to the song rather than read it to get this. But from the tone of his voice and the music, that he's not super happy about men searching for wealth untold and leaving the empty holes.
Right.
So
This is
This is an attempt
at a pro-Indian
Yes.
kind of anti-capitalism,
Yeah.
very much pro-environmental song in 1992 from John Anderson.
I mean,
it's kind of wild.
I
always just sort of automatically interpreted this. Well, first, one small note. The last line of the chorus is alligator in the gar.
Yeah.
My whole life until just now, I thought it was alligators in the dark.
I did too.
Which is funny because like they are also there in the daytime. Like I don't, but I never.
That's when they're
thought
scariest, though.
Alligators in the dark. Is
What
I
is
always thought it
what
was.
is the gar?
It's
What is
like
that
an alligator
fish?
fish.
It's the
Like
scariest shit you will ever fucking see in your life. I remember when I was like
pull it
8
up
years
while y'all
old,
talk.
dude.
they're
It's
wild.
wild. I was fishing. I was like 8. We were out trout fishing or whatever the hell. And I pulled one up, and this damn guard just like plops up in the pontoon. And buddy, I mean, like I had just seen Jurassic Park, and I thought some shit was going down. They're like, they're wild. They don't hit.
Piranhas. Like
They're the wasps of
It's
the
like
lake.
a fish, but it's like an alligator fish.
Yeah.
That's what a gar is.
It's
to me,
an abomination of God, is what it is.
And I don't think they're that like dangerous or
No,
scary.
I don't think so either. They're just
but
they
they
just
look rough.
that way. They're one of them animals that got that, that misfortune of
Like a possum, yeah.
like a
They're like
possum. They
Jews.
really are not harmful or anything, but people see them and they're like,
Oh,
kill it.
yeah,
Oh man, I keep doing that dumb thing.
Just because of how it looks.
yeah.
It's
It
like,
don't.
if you cute, you can get away with literal murder. In the
What do you think of that, Tushar?
That ain't it.
Jeez, that is.
So that's a gar. Just
a
a
cartoon.
Just
like
a quick aside before Trey, you finish because you did that aside, and we got to get back to your point.
Yeah.
I thought it said Okeechobee Bend, and then Minico's Men, and I just never questioned that. And
I always thought
Okeechobee and Minicobe.
I always thought it was Okeechobee Ridge.
I knew because I'd heard of Okeechobee. That's the lake, right?
Yeah.
I knew
Yes.
it was Okeechobee, but I always thought, but the second one, I didn't know what I thought it was some kind of peak, which they don't have peaks in Florida. I never thought about this shit. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, Seminole Peak, that's up there, but like, there ain't no peaks in Florida.
Well,
so
what was your point? And then we're going to talk about the accuracy of the chorus.
I always assumed that the sort of general theme of this song is like a mournful recollection of a lost way of life.
Yeah.
Like it's like celebrating what this land was, whose it was, and also outlining what happened to it and being sad about that. And it's like all that's left is the wind that blows across. If you listen closely, and actually we'll get to that later, like you can hear in the wind the souls of those that went before type of thing.
Which is like a very like how movies portray, every tribe's religion,
right?
Whether that's accurate or not. But we've been on that side of this talking about the fetishization. But now let's get into the whole cultural appropriation conversation. There's another side to it that I think is valid of like, yes, but like, how do we honor a culture that we like?
Right.
Whether we mean white people or just society at large. I think it's pretty clear that on some level, John Anderson is not just fetishizing the Seminoles, but is like feeling some of their pain, or at least attempting to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can get into the video now. He had to get permission to shoot that video on the lands that he was on, and he did get permission from the Seminole tribes. There's more than one, which we'll get into in a second. And he sat with actual Seminoles. He did not hire Mexicans for that music video.
There you go.
He's sitting with actual tribesmen. They heard the song. They approved, what he was doing. Does that mean that everyone has to accept it? No, of course not. But my point is, he at least convinced the Seminole people's leadership, that this is all above board. Now,
it definitely seems like his heart's in the right place.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the music video?
I did. Mm-hmm. It was real dark on my, I don't know if that was just like my computer, but it was a very dark video, and I couldn't tell all the time what was going on. I saw him singing, and there was a bunch of shit swaying.
I don't think I watched the right video.
Scary. The video too short. I thought you meant it was dark, like the themes were dark.
No. I mean, yeah, but like it was just a very dark shot video.
The quality wasn't great.
Yeah,
because it's old. It's an old video, and it hasn't been like remastered or whatever. So it was kind of, hard to tell what was going on at points. Too Short, you might have seen just the
live
live
version.
the live
I think
version,
I
which
watched the
has
live
way
version.
more
I
views.
have it running right now.
The video, you have the real video.
Yeah, in the background.
That live version's pretty good too. Those strings, that violin, that's gorgeous. Gets me every time, man. Starts making me think of Aunt Donna's figurines.
Mhm.
Well, the music video itself is pretty on the nose. You've got Indians, traditions. Then there's a large group of Indian tribes performing with Anderson beside a campfire. And, again, it's 1992. I don't think now people would be like, all right, if we're going to do this, can we not do a campfire? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's fucking,
Well,
who needs a campfire in Florida in 2022?
to defend it a little bit, they wouldn't be doing this goddamn song now in the how country music is. You know what I mean? This don't check any of the goddamn boxes for 2022 country. So hell,
That's true.
It is
Wow.
it's impressive how many like drone-esque shots they have, but there's no drones back then.
No, they're using real airplanes.
helicopter.
Or
trained
Tushar,
eagles is what
Yeah.
it is.
attach the cameras to spirits.
Yeah, or that. Right.
It is
I didn't
kind of
think
gross
about that.
how, just looking at this objectively, like white man shows up, kills everyone, then white man makes song about what he killed.
Well, I mean,
Sure,
John Anderson
but,
didn't kill nobody.
I know,
like,
but he's not. This
200
guy's making
years
money
past.
off of it.
Yeah.
But like 200 years passed in the meantime. And you're right. There's something odd about, we were talking about it earlier. Is it guilt? Is it fetishization? What is it? Or is it just like a true appreciation of things that were there? And, it's hard to say. I would wager, I don't know this for a fact, just based upon that lunch lady ID picture I had up earlier, that he's got some ideas that some political views that don't line up with the best interests of Native American people.
Maybe.
But I don't know that. I don't know that for a fact.
I mean, look how we look. You know what I mean?
I would love for this song to be sang by like a Dolly Parton.
Okay, what would be different about it?
I don't know. There's something about a white woman doing it for some reason.
Or just Dolly.
You're just used to white women doing that kind of thing.
Right.
It's like, it could be the theme song to, that store Anthropology or Urban Outfitters.
Right.
Their new Seminole Wind line.
I could definitely see them doing that.
Yeah, Andy would show me pictures and be like, "Can we buy this?" And I would be like, "It's $700." I don't think so. Well, let's get back to the lyrics. Progress came and took its toll, and in the name of flood control, they made their plans and they drained the land. Now the glades are going dry. And the last time I walked in the swamp, I stood up on a cypress stump. I listened close and I heard the ghost of Osceola cry.
There you go.
So blow, blow, Seminole wind. Blow like you're never going to blow again. I'm calling to you like a long-lost friend, but I know who you are. And blow, blow from the Okeechobee all the way up to Micanopy. Blow across the home of the Seminole, the alligator and the gar. All right. Now we can really get into what we're talking about. And I didn't realize the whole episode would kind of be about this. I primed up to get into it right here, which is John Anderson has a lot of historical accuracy and references in this song that are pretty spot on. I mean, I think when he walked into there to the campfire, to the sweat lodge, when he walked into the building with the elders and he was like, "This is the song I want to record."
Here's
It
some
was a legit
wampum.
song.
Will you allow it?
Exactly. He had his wampum. We traded him 3 white women.
Yeah. In exchange.
When he did that, he had this song. There are a lot of like accurate references. So Osceola was one of the leaders of the Seminole.
That's that dude from that Super Bowl commercial, right?
That cried?
That cried, yeah.
Oh, was that
Really?
Osceola?
Oh,
I
dude,
don't
you
think
fucked
so.
me. You said that with such confidence.
Right. He said, "Here's the ghost of Osceola crying." I was like, I know the ending that cried.
Yeah,
Everybody knows
litter.
that guy. Now, it turns
There's
out
only one.
that dude was Italian or some shit.
Yeah.
He really was. He wasn't Indian at all.
And didn't give a fuck about littering.
No, I was just fucking around. Osceola,
Cigarettes out.
go ahead.
Cursing the Jews. You can do that to Italians. You're allowed to. Okay. What was I saying? Oh,
Osceola.
Osceola was one of the leaders of the Seminole during the Seminole War. The Seminole War goes back to who? None other than the greatest fucking, what did Corey call him? The LeBron James, or maybe it was Trey, of killing
Andrew
Indians.
Jackson, that was
Corey.
me. Yeah.
Andrew Jackson.
Pew, pew,
yeah.
pew, 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 pew.
Andrew Jackson was involved in the first relocation of the various Indian tribes across Florida, put them on a reservation in Central Florida, moved them out of the north part of Florida, which is where John Anderson grew up. Upon doing this, at that time, Florida had not become a settled American state yet. Spain was still down there fucking around, and with the treaty they had going on, had like legitimate rights in certain parts of Florida to be there. So the leadership of Spain says, because we've got, all these things called slaves going on over here. Leadership of Spain says, hey, if you can fucking make it to Florida, you're not a slave anymore. We'll give you food and a place to live, and of course a gun, because we're still kind of technically at a little bit of a war, not a war, but like our borders ain't really secure with these fucking Americans, right?
Spain's just still down there, just looking for gold and magical fountains and all that shit they were doing. Just all
popping off, telling black people, come here, be free, we'll give you a gun.
God damn, it ain't nothing but big lizards and body bugs down here. This is bullshit. Ain't no gold. Ain't no fuck. I thought it was supposed to be cities of gold and water that would make me young again. That's what Spain felt.
And imagine being a black, hey, you can come. You shouldn't be a slave. That's wrong. Come on down here. Wink, wink. We need more fucking workers.
It's so funny to think that before like pain pills and Hooters showed up, Florida was still on some Florida shit.
Dude, it's the same with Australia.
Yeah, like it's always been a little bit more wild than everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with America. We were founded on lies, and now we're still a grift.
Yeah,
like, you can't get that out of your national DNA. Anyway, so that's what's going on. This is like in the the mid 1800s, like 1830s ish, right? History passes as it does, skirmishes here and there. Well, now you've got 2 or 3 generations of escaped slaves doing settlements beside relocated Indians. Well, what happens? Well, they all start to mingle, start to fuck, start to have their own traditions, but traditions that they create together, et cetera, et cetera. That is essentially what becomes what is known as the Seminole People. Like we often do, most people think that's a name we fucking gave them because one of the Spanish leaders called them a Spanish word, I want to say Seminore, which meant wild ones. Mm-hmm. Like, hey man, don't even be trying to like get them to listen to you. They're fucking nuts. They're Seminores. And somebody was like, oh, Seminole. Gotcha.
Word.
Andrew Jackson becomes president. Now he's taken his Indian hating to the big time. Mm-hmm. Now we all know about the Trail of Tears, but
I'm taking my talents to South Beach.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Fucking Andrew Jackson.
But we all know about the Trail of Tears and what he did in his own state of Tennessee, but he was doing that elsewhere. He was also trying to move the Seminoles out. Well, they didn't want to fucking leave.
Yeah.
And they fought. And one of the leaders at that time was Osceola, who was a young warrior when all this started popping off. And the old warriors were trying to, make peace with the white man. And Osceola saw right through us and was like, fuck that. Let's get some guns and let's fuck these people up. The Massacre of Dade is a situation in which 120, I think it was, American troops, everybody died but 3. One died 2 days later from his wounds, and the only 2 survived. The Indians lost 3 fucking people. So we beat them 117. They beat us. See, I became an Indian in that. See, that's what it was. We just laughed. Osceola was the warrior that led all that. Now, eventually, we know how this story pretty much ends. But,
go on.
Well, but it doesn't end in total annihilation, and it doesn't end in them moving to fucking Oklahoma. It ends in a peace agreement eventually and a reservation, which, of course, over time we dwindled away and, conned them out of and cheated them and took, and then eventually
won a couple national championships for them, though.
Goddamn right.
Go Gators.
And then eventually
other ones
drained.
They
the
also
swamp. Was also that part of the song is true and was more close in time. So the elders that John Anderson was meeting with in their lifetime had experienced the draining of their fishing lands and all that so that white people could build condos. So that part of this song, and the reason I said its references are accurate, the Okeechobee is a river, but it's also a people. So like he's referencing actual tribes and places. Like he's not doing that thing half Cherokee and Choctaw, which makes no fucking sense historically or geographically. Like he's actually referencing things within the Seminole Nation.
So he's not doing the thing I do in jokes. He knows what he's talking about.
But what is the point of the song other than I'm just saying, like he's doing the thing that I thought you were describing because he's not really taking a huge stand, number one. Number two, this is where it gets iffy. Hearing the ghost of Osceola cry, I don't know anything about Seminole traditions. It is possible that John Anderson researched their religions and faiths, and this part of it is accurate. But it sure feels to me that talking to the wind while you sit on a tree stump is the religious version of half Cherokee and Choctaw.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Tushar,
If you stand in this swamp, if you stand in this swamp and listen real closely to the wind, you will eventually hear an Indian cry, and that's that's just how Florida works.
To be fair, that's our culture. If you're white and you live in North Florida, that's just our religious belief. Everybody believes if you listen to the wind, you'll hear an Indian cry.
Do you think there's this song was listened, or is there like a bad way to hear this song?
Well,
no.
You know what I'm asking?
I think so. The only way it was mislistened, in my opinion, is most Southern Americans don't get what we're talking about why this would ever be
the anti-capitalism bend.
Well, that part was definitely probably mislistened to, but I interpreted what Tushar was saying to mean like somehow against Indians.
Right.
No, like if like a racist person listens to stuff and they listen to it racist, and I guess is this in the wrong hands could be almost like a parody, but I don't know if it's ever interpreted that way because it feels like I'm going to get on my motorcycle and drive cross country type of music. That's what it felt like when I listened to it. It's like that open, free, soaring type of thing. And of all the songs we've done, I think this is the one that I would be most like a man on his own mission type of music. So it's like, how does that go with like, if it's built for the vibe is modern day, this is the worst case, but like an incel type of person, and then you put this music in there. Are they listening to it with the honor it's written, by what it's written?
Well, that's what's wild about so many people I know who have a fucking rebel flag on their garage door. Is like they've also got a picture of an Indian,
right?
And they're that's my hero.
That's what I was going to say too. It's like, dude, very few. I know that like Native Americans are obviously, a whole other type of people than white people, but racist white people, at least in the South, they usually don't have no kind of problem with Native Americans. Again,
no,
we're still like systemically and institutionally,
of course,
racist towards Native Americans, of course, but on an individual basis, your average Southern racist ain't, like Drew said, they probably tell you their part Cherokee, or their grandma was Cherokee, and they got all this Cherokee shit in their house or whatever.
I mean, they drank too much, but hell, that ain't their fault. Damn.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people genuinely use them as like their example of why they aren't racist. Like, oh no, what do you mean? Like, hell, look how we treat Native Americans. We're very respectful of their culture.
I bet you though, I don't know, I'm just going off of how I know white people be. I bet you in places like Oklahoma and whatnot, where there's like larger populations and reservations and stuff, I bet you shitty white people around there can go into graphic detail on what don't hit about Native Americans.
We've heard it's like they might have been cool back in the day, but dude, these days just lazy. We started giving them those government land handouts.
Won't work, want a handout. Like it's all the same shit they say about every other.
Me and Drew had dinner with wrestling legend. Yeah, well, wrestling legend Jerry Briscoe, whose grandmother was I don't know what tribe, and I'm not even going to pretend was it the Cherokee? And he was like, it was a known thing, like that was his grandmother, and they literally called him half blood And that was the reason that he told us that he kind of got into wrestling, was because he got in a lot of fights anyways for people making fun of him and making fun of his culture and calling him less than. So he just started whooping everybody's ass, you know, and that's just, so yeah. And he's from Oklahoma.
Now,
Right.
later in that dinner, I had 2 edibles and a lot of drinks. And he said, as he's telling stories, as he does, great guy, that he was with John Anderson the day his second kid was born, and they was fucked up on drugs.
Yeah.
And he had to try to help John get home. And
Yeah.
I said, so was Seminole Wind about you? And he said, I am Seminole Wind. And it
Chills.
was the funniest fucking thing.
It was
Because
great.
I said it, and I was like, I'm going to get my nose broke. I can't believe I just said that.
Right
And then he
after
just
that, out of
cut right through the
context,
tension.
right after that, out of context, he said, I was with Billy Gibbons on 9/11. We won't tell that story, but it was a great fucking dinner. It was awesome.
It was. Well, anyway, let's get back to the song. Let's now look at the song through the non-woke lens. Let's look at it. I guess first of all, let's talk about the capitalistic themes here. I do think that in country music, there's a Leonard Skinner song that is more of a country song, in my opinion, called "Write It in a Song," that has a similar theme. In country, there's always this theme of getting back to basics. Country boy can survive. There's always been a little bit of a anti-development aspect to country music, even though the politics of the genre now are dominated by right-wing things. But it's in there. I mean, and it's pretty overt. They dig for silver and for gold, and they leave the empty holes. I mean, there's not a stronger metaphor for money and capital than digging for silver and gold, in my opinion. I mean, the only way to look at it's environmental. You know, like there's only 2 ways you can go with that metaphor, and both of them are pretty, lefty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I find that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, to me, the song was always about, there was this beautiful land and proud people. It got fucked up. I'm mourning that happened. And this part, I might be wrong about all this, but this part I might be reaching in particular. And it's like, and the wind that blows over it is still the same as it was then. So like the wind is still there. Like the wind is all that's left. And if you sit and you listen to the wind, you can hear the soul of the land or whatever. And that's like that's generally what the song is about to me, in my mind, and it is sad, I think. Yeah.
And getting back to that second verse, which backs you up about the draining of the swamp, which obviously has its own political connotations now. But there's been a movement on and off for the whole latter part of the 19th century to drain the Everglades, because they didn't understand the geography and what they were doing back then. So the way it works is, in the dry season, the Lake Okeechobee becomes a river as it exceeds. I'm sorry, in the wet season, it exceeds its capacity and it becomes a river. And at the time, people were like, "Hey, we can't live like this, whatever." But that's the 18th century. Like, really, what are they going to do? They built some drains, but the swamp won.
Dude, people moving into a swamp and being like, it's too goddamn wet around here. We're going to have to do something about that. Doesn't this place realize we can't live here with it being this wet?
Your point would be hilarious.
It's almost rude.
Yeah, this place is rude, man. Being all
your point
wet
would
and
be
shit.
very funny in the 1800s, which is what we're talking about right now. This continues on, though. So in the 1800s, you show up on a wagon. Well, what the fuck else you gonna do? I spent all my goddamn wooden nickels getting down here. We got to dig a trench or whatever. But like it was going on in the 60s. It's going on in the 70s. But now you've got developer interests, lobbying interests, and money behind it, and you've got a group of natives who aren't as scary anymore. Well, for lack of a better way to say it, it's like, yeah, they're not. Come on, what are they gonna do? Scalp us? Fuck them.
They got Facebook accounts. They're fine.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been going on a while, and like I said, so that's why this song is, it's about the 1800s in Osceola. It's also about what's happening, when he writes it. It's sort of a political song, which is also wild. I think you could get away with that in 90s country if it's about one region, a group of people who aren't black, and there's no Facebook at the time for someone to like turn it into you're a commie.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, because like when you're really hearing it and breaking down the lyrics, like the whole idea of this song goes completely against the Trump supporters' whole mentality, and that whole like they're all about fuck it, put a condo up. It's all about profit, So
there's probably literally a Trump Tower near Disney World, right? Exactly where we're talking about.
I'm certain.
But see, I mean, we've pointed that out before on our other podcasts. We've talked about how like it doesn't make sense that most of these people aren't more pro environment and shit because of like songs like this. This wasn't at all controversial, I don't think. In 92 when it came out, people are like, yeah, land or hit.
Dude, people like this gets played if you go down to the County Line bar down here on any given Saturday night when there's, two white dudes and two acoustic guitars playing cover songs, like this song comes up. You know what I mean? And everybody in the room has a reverence for it, and then turn right around and are like, we got a fucking Bitcoin, whatever, like it's crazy. Like it's like Paul Ryan with his goddamn Rage Against the Machine says, like, do you really know what the machine is there, pal?
Right.
What really the tipping point was in 1969 that really got it going with like what we would consider at that time modern technology, which has allowed them to successfully sort of drain or canal the swamp, was an airport of all places. Fucking airport. I thought that was interesting when I was reading it. I just want to bring that up. That's what took them over the top. They needed another airport. These fucking people flying down from New York needed more places to land their fucking airplanes. Well, anyway, now let's also look at the song. We did it that way. I want to look at it just as a song for a minute. I love the chorus. It is like a chant, blow, blow. Like I dig that. It gets rhythm. Tushar half jokingly started doing the chop earlier. It may have been on purpose.
Christ.
Well, I think he was trying to point out that the song was attempting to sound like what white people think Indian music is or whatever.
Oh, right.
That may be true, but it's effective. That chorus is an earworm. The rhythmic of it is good. And I really like the lyrics. I do. It could make a stronger argument for what he's getting at here, but this was 1992, and he was at that time a kind of forgotten about, not really superstar, just like, pretty good singer. So, I really like the lyrics. It's just as far as a song goes. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Also, he's singing the hell out of it. John Anderson, he's in, Tracy Lawrence has one of these too. These dudes that like, they've got a voice that itself almost sounds like an instrument. Like it's got a very harmonica quality to it. You know what I mean? When John Anderson sings, it almost sounds like his voice is doing harmony with itself. You know what I'm saying? Like it's real stringy. I just really, really enjoy it. He sings the hell out of this damn song.
It's that gravelly thing. And you want to talk about something we've referenced before, North Florida being Southern. He's from North Florida. And one of his other songs, "Swinging." I mean, the name of it is "Swinging," and it's swinging.
Just swinging. Yeah.
Is that 90s?
I don't think so.
I think it's earlier. I feel like,
but I'm sure it's like late 70s.
I think, musically, I think it's incredible. It's like one of those songs that sounds exactly the way it should sound, if that makes sense. Like it fits the subject matter. Really, it's almost like haunting. It's like the song could be carried upon the wind.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like if that makes sense. I don't know.
It does.
Well, that's why I like the music video, even if it's like it drawing on inappropriate stereotypes. Well, it's one of the best to ever do it. God damn it.
Yeah.
This is the Dances with Wolves of country songs.
Again, well, especially when you compare it all to, Indian Outlaw.
Yes.
Right. Like it's a whole different ball game.
Well, the closest comparison is the song Indian Outlaw sampled, which is called Cherokee People, which is the same sort of, we're honoring them, but it's like, you guys are just a bunch of fucking hippies.
So funny. Tim McGraw took that and he's like, I know how to make this hit. Fucking,
You hippies came close.
eating corn in my teepee. You know, fucking
Eating curry with my papa.
I got Indian in-laws. Fucking,
What's the rap?
because
what's the
of
rap
what we
equivalent?
Oh
Ooh,
man.
I don't think there
Wu-Tang
is one.
probably got some shit about like Japanese culture or something that
yeah.
they're celebrating. You
Oh,
know,
that's right.
something like that. I guess would
Shaolin
be
master
close.
stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna go with all of Wu-Tang.
I was gonna say, because of everything we talked about earlier, am I forgetting some? I'm kind of surprised there aren't more. I would think this would be a whole subgenre of country.
That's
Yes,
what I'm
I
saying.
agree.
That's what
Indian
I'm saying
country,
earlier.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
fucking Choctaw country or whatever you want to call it. Like, because of the fascination that our people have with it and everything, and both these songs being huge hits, you would expect there to be a bunch more of these, in my opinion. Surely there were some other failed ones and stuff. I can't think of any, but
Also, it's called country and western music and
Yeah.
western movies. You know, Indians are in 85 to 90% of them.
right.
Were there
I
any
never really thought
breakout-
about that, but yeah.
Were there any other breakout American Indian country?
Clay.
Well, again, I'm sure there's about 15 or 18, you know,
No, there's one who's
country
like
music artists who
certified.
tell you, it's like, yeah, my mama's she's Cherokee, you know.
He's
sure.
he's
I'm
like
talking like
Trumpy.
100%.
I mean,
yeah,
Tim McGraw.
He's not 100%, but Clay.
Walker,
Is it Aiken, or is he the one that
Clay
was on American
Aiken?
Idol? Is he on American Idol?
Yeah,
Is he
he
on,
was. He's running for
no,
governor.
who's the one that sings?
Clay Walker.
Maybe. Let me look up Clay Walker. Let me see his face. Yeah, I'm 99% sure Clay Walker is like, part, like significant. May have made that up.
There's
He may have
definitely-
made that up. I didn't. He may have made that up.
I think we need to look at the rap equivalent though a little bit differently. Like there's definitely rap songs about the white man coming in and gentrifying the hood, which that's kind of the theme here, right? Am I wrong?
That's a good point.
Yeah, but it
Which
would
there's
have
a
to-
bunch.
But this song is a white dude singing it. You
Yeah,
know?
that's true.
Yeah,
there's no.
So Macklemore.
yeah.
There you go. Thrift
I
store.
mean, Eminem, when he raps about stealing black music and stuff, some of his song, like that's the thing that happened. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I do. I'm just trying to think of one song or like get it in my head. Oh shit! Apparently, Marty Robbins has got a significant amount of. I'm gonna not say this word right. P-A-I-U-T-E. Paiute.
Paiute, sure.
Marty Robbins is part Paiute.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you guys want to ascribe a rating to this song by the white man about the natives' plight?
Yes.
I'll go first. I'll give it a 2.666. A third
3 sixes.
off. Yeah,
For the white devil.
a third off for the American genocide of the American Indians.
That's fair.
But that's it.
That's fair.
That's it. Other than
That's
that,
fair.
perfect.
I think it's unfair you're holding that against John Anderson, but okay.
I think
agree.
that's fair. I'm still going to go 3. I'm not 3 out of 3 Earnhardts. Just song hits. What do you want me to say?
I was on the fence. I wanted to come in. At first, I was like, man, this is one of my favorite songs. It's got to be 3. And then I was like, I just think of it objectively, Corey. And you come in here with the whole like, hey, it's actually also historically accurate. And I think with all that in mind, and especially with the anti-capitalist bend that's very rare in country music, I got to give this a 3 out of 3 Earnhardts.
Tushar, you feeling good about your rating, or do you want to take it back like
Yeah,
an
I'll-
Indian giver?
I-
JK. Okay.
Oh,
That one has
Got
got to
him.
be one of the most offensive stereotypes because the people who gave
Right.
and took away
It makes
was
no
us.
sense. It
Right.
makes no sense.
Yes. It's
Like that's an
It
Indian
should be called-
receiver.
yeah.
It should be white taker instead of Indian
Uh-huh.
giver. The phrase should be.
All right, somebody mute him. Tushar's cutting out. I don't know if we're having problems. I can't hear you very well, Tushar. I'm just fucking with you, buddy.
Silence him.
White taker.
White taker. Well, not to go too far off the reservation here, but
God damn it.
I've been going back and forth between a 2 and 2/3 and a 3. I got to go with 3 And what puts it over the top for me is the melody. This is a beautiful song.
It's great,
This
man.
is
Yeah.
a truly beautiful song. I am a little uncomfortable that 3 white dudes said this is a perfect song.
Hey, what are you gonna do? I
And
mean,
the wrong kind of Indian was like,
2.66.
6, white devil.
I would like to hear the Trans-Siberian Orchestra play this motherfucker. It's beautiful.
I would also like to hear more about what went down as far as the conversation between he and the elders. If he just paid him for it, like if he showed it to him and they were like, I'm 50-50, and he was like, and here's a pile of money, then I'm going 2.66. But if it was good enough for them on its face, I got to go 3.
Yeah,
That's my weak, I'm afraid to have an opinion, white guy caveat.
yeah.
Probably
I'm
gifted
interested.
blankets.
I'm interested to. I want to read more about how this John Anderson votes. God damn it! I want to see if he's backing it up in the '90s. You know what I mean?
Don't tell me.
Yeah,
think
I
know
won't.
anyway.
If you don't hear, you'll know.
Mm.
Well, I appreciate y'all. Skew.
You.
Mere moments after finishing recording this episode of Bubba Shot the Podcast, the world-renowned and very award-winning podcast about 90s country music and nostalgia, Andy got home from running some errands and was telling me a story about a Facebook fight she's in. This is a favorite pastime of hers, to fight on Facebook and then tell me about it. But to save them some time, and I'll let you chime in at the end with your info, a lady was saying the N-word and calling black people monkeys and wild shit. Andy and her niece Jessie were fighting with her about it. Then people started defending that lady, saying she's not a horrible person and don't jump on her. And that led to a lot of back and forth. And at some point, Andy said the sentence, yes, apathy was the easy road for white people. And the lady says...
So she responds to me and says, not the one that was saying the initial racist.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Just say
Okay.
it.
Anyway, she responds to me and she says, by the way you're assuming I'm white, just by looking at the color of my skin, you cannot tell. I'm actually considered a minority, enough so to qualify for free government funding had I went to college. My great-grandfather was a Seminole Indian born in the Florida Everglades, and a very famous one at that. So, see, you can't assume one is racist based off the color of their skin, nor can you assume they are white just because they look that way. I am more Indian than any other nationality or race.
So blow, blow, Seminole Wind.
Bubba Shot the Podcast, and that's right, a show about country at its height. Don't expect no shit from 2005. Bubba Shot the Podcast.